progress.
Roll call, please.
Chair Gary Delco.
Yes.
Vice Chair Matt Schuler.
Yes.
Debbie Dean. Present. Alder Hinkles.
Present.
Stephen Service.
Here.
Melanie Parma.
Here.
And Linda Robinson.
Here I am.
You know, only got a quorum. Everybody's here. I don't think that's happened in a long time. That's great. Thank you. Thanks for coming. Okay, approval of the agenda, please.
Second.
And, well,
Kathy?
Kathy. Alder Hinkles. I got it right this time.
You're not the only one that gets it wrong, trust me. Ask him, he's correcting me every couple of years.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Approval of minutes from January 13th.
So moved. Second.
Steve and Matt, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Thanks. Regular order of business, number 1. Consideration and possible action to award $150,000 of home art funds to St. John's Ministry to support the Lasting Change program. And that is... Will, please.
Yeah, thank you, Gary. And then, yeah, just start out with a little background on the funding source, because it's been a while, I think, since we talked about these funds. But the American Rescue Plan provides funding to assist individuals or households who are at risk of homelessness and other vulnerable populations by providing housing, rental assistance, supportive services, and non-congregate shelter. The City of Green Bay received approximately $1.9 million to allocate towards these eligible activities to serve qualified populations. To date, we've used $550,000 allocated towards homeless outreach case coordinators. So that's Pete and Jeremy who work in those positions right now. And those positions were created to work with our most vulnerable and chronic homeless in the City of Green Bay. And then happy to report that just learned that they have successfully housed 25 of Green Bay's most chronically and vulnerable homeless right now in the last year, which is pretty amazing. And then we've set aside $1 million for housing developments, specifically to house individuals who are homeless or at risk of homelessness. The way this translates to units, when you see development agreements or proposals that come in front of you, these are the units that are set aside for households at that 30% or lower income, with the added caveat that they have to be homeless or at risk of homelessness. And so that $1 million we have allocated towards the fire station apartments that General Capital in the City of Green Bay are working on in South Broadway, and which leaves us some remaining funds in our supportive service category and here on your staff report it says $203,395, but that number is slightly off just because we were notified by HUD that they under-awarded us. They didn't award us as much as they were supposed to by $2,926. So I want to make sure we're accurate here. So actually we have $206,321 to allocate to supportive service projects. St. John's Ministries submitted an application or proposal to fund their Lasting Change program, which up to this point has been a pilot program. The purpose of the Lasting Change program is to provide staff support to individuals once they're housed. So once they leave as guests from St. John's or Wellspring and are housed, they provide staff support to help ensure that they maintain their housing. So they've been piloting this program since April and have had a success rate of 95%, which is huge. And I believe on average, the balance of states cites that recidivism rate for homelessness, return to homelessness, is around 33%. So really great success, and so they're coming to the city to look for support for 3 years of this program at $50,000 per year. I understand in your staff report, it states that staff is recommending to award all 3 years of funding. However, we were recently made aware that the funding amount that was awarded for our homeless outreach case coordinators is drawing faster than we had originally anticipated. The primary reason being our vehicle expenses. So a major component of our homeless outreach case coordinators is making sure that the people they're working with can get to doctor's appointments, because many of the people that they're working with have major underlying medical conditions that need to get addressed before they can even get housed. It just so happened, being in government and the nonprofit world, you learn to be thrifty and resourceful, right? So when we were forming these positions, we had 2 inspection vehicles that were going to be sent to the auction block. And we were able to, hey, hold on a second, let's use those vehicles. They're safe to use, but I would let my kids drive them. However, they need some maintenance and work, and so that's where we've been drawing some of the funds. So what we would like to propose to do in light of that recent information is propose to fund St. John's Lasting Change Program for 1 year of their program, and then to set aside the remaining funds to ensure that we can fund our homeless outreach case coordinator positions through 2029. The funding source expires in 2030. So and we are still working on trying to identify long-term funding sources for our homeless outreach case coordinators, just because of the huge impact that they are having. They're definitely vital right now, and I would say the network of service providers and the resources that are available to ensure that these individuals are getting housed off the street. So with that was a lot that I just felt. I want to see if there's any questions on our change in recommendation.
No, not a change, question on the change.
Yeah.
A little bit just on I think you call them case coordinators that are working for the Lasting Change Program.
Mm-hmm.
What do they do?
Well, so
after their guest leaves St. John's and
right.
gets housing, what are they doing
Right.
with those folks that we think is contributing to the success rate?
Right. So, and they're here. St. John's is here in the room, and they're more than welcome to speak on this. But the role that their staff is playing in following these individuals along at their houses, ensuring that they know how to be a good tenant, a good renter. So, they're checking in to make sure, hey, you're keeping your house clean. Are you able to get groceries and food? Have you been able to make it to any meetings if they happen to be in recovery? Are they getting to their meetings? Just those small touch points, because some of these individuals have not rented or have had their own housing in quite some time. And so it's not really safe to assume that all of the individuals coming out of homelessness know what it takes and how to maintain their housing and be a good renter, even ensuring that they're budgeting correctly, for rent and needs that they're, and the biggest thing is making sure that they're staying within their lease agreements. Because there have been issues in the past where some folks like to invite friends over and stay with them, and if they're not on the lease, that's an issue. So it's kind of those little rough edges, so to say, that the caseworkers at St. John's Ministries' job is to help smooth those out and ensure that those individuals that came out of homelessness and now have a permanent place to stay can maintain that.
And are they primarily working with the landlords or with the tenants themselves?
I would say both, and it's really important that not all landlords are caseworkers or understand what it is like to work with individuals who have had past experiences that are different than ours. So it's really important to have that mediator between these individuals who are coming out of homelessness and the landlords to ensure a good working relationship, and that these folks can maintain their housing. And also know that they're another point of contact, that if something were to come up, instead of perhaps calling the police or the city, they're going to call this caseworker to say, hey, we've got this issue, can you maybe come over and help sort this out or smooth out.
I'd make a motion that we open the meeting.
Yes.
For the folks, so the folks from St. John's Ministries can also tell their stories themselves, and we have more questions. I'd make that motion.
Second.
Alder Hinkes, all those in favor of the motion, please with saying aye.
Aye.
Greg?
Yeah, Jesse Burnett, Executive Director, St. John's Ministries, 612 Stewart Street. have my colleague Tolof and Lauren wrote the application, Tolof does the street visits, so I'll ask him to speak too.
Sure.
Will, I thought, did a wonderful job explaining the program. We are growing at St. John's Ministries. We believe that homelessness is a community concern or issue, and it requires a community solution. So Pete and Jeremy, wonderful, absolutely wonderful. We partner with them quite a bit. What this program does for us is, for our former guests who are experiencing prolonged homelessness over years, chronic homelessness, a lot of trauma, a lot of behavioral health issues, a lot of addiction, is sometimes people can feel in this field as you get them off the streets, that's a success, they're housed. However, if they're a long-term homelessness or a social system that's not in place, guests that are housed will often fall back into homelessness because they don't have healthy relationships. We build a community with them at St. John's Ministries through our staff, through our case management, through our shelter employees, through our volunteers. And many times people will come back to us because we are their community. So the idea is when they're in their home, we want to ensure that that is a long-term success. And we are bringing our resources, our staff, our volunteers, our program coordination to them. The other thing we have to realize is that when people are housed, regardless of the funding source of the community program, they're not always equipped with the right things to be successful in a home. Furniture, the ability to connect to food resources, household items, just basic hygiene items. So this program will provides funds, mostly through in-kind contributions and donor support, to bring those items to a home. Because if a person falls back into homelessness, yet another eviction, and a lot of times if they don't have a plan with their possessions, they lose everything all over again. And more times than not, in our local community, they'll fall back to us again. So one of the reasons we've been able to maintain our shelter numbers stable versus last year, which 3 straight years of record numbers, is that this program so far has been successful keeping people in their homes so that we can make our resources available for people who are newly becoming homeless. So.
Questions for St. John's?
I'll do a couple more. So
Sure.
when you look at like the number of people, because you're open November through April, if I remember correctly, like what number of people would be, staying in your place on an average night this year?
Mm-hmm.
And then what number of people are you supporting who, I'm going to use the term graduated?
Sure.
Out of the program, I'm probably not the right term.
Yeah.
Are now housed again.
So last season was 100 men per night and 41 women over the entire 6-month period. This year, we are averaging, for the first 101 nights of shelter, 96 men and 43 women. So women have gone up, partly because the needs for women are greater. There's less resources in the community for women than, unfortunately, for men. But then I'll let Tolof answer the questions in terms of the number of people. He's more detailed on the actual visits.
So I have about 100 people on my list that have been St. John's residents and now have their own place.
That are now in housing.
Correct.
Oh, very good.
And what I'll say too, and this is important to know, is that with the approval of the city government through the Plan Commission and the full city council, they approved women's shelter. I can see it right now, actually. We're allowed 58 women per night. The city of Green Bay approved for us to shelter up to 70 women per night, but at that same meeting, they also approved for us to extend our shelter season to become more of a year-round provider. Likely won't be a year-round emergency shelter because there's a lot of things to consider internally for us. However, we're going to be shifting to program-based shelters. So yes, sir, even though we're considered a seasonal shelter, most people recognize us as that. St. John's is growing in many ways through shelter, but also through this program. So.
Other questions for St. John's? Yes, please, Kathy.
Jesse, you had originally asked for 3 years of funding, and Will, you had said that we are only looking at 1. So this program started in April of this year, and you've had some pretty good success. Is 1 year enough?
So I talked to Will, and Will's been wonderful to work with. He shared the news with me prior to this meeting. Of course, it's disappointing, however, the reasons are justifiable as far as I'm concerned. Pete and Jeremy are wonderful. They can't walk to these visits and the appointments. They work very closely with us. So yeah, multiple years would be great, because then it can kind of permanently embed that program in the community, because not only is it good for St. John's, it's good for this
Yes.
community. So any resources the city can provide us, that means less donor support would have to fund this program, and then we could do more street outreach. We could expand shelter programming. We should do a lot of things to help the community. So, yeah, it's disappointing. However, it's better to say we'll get 1 year funding than 0 years of funding.
And that, the other 2 years is to fund the 2 that we have?
Correct.
And they work very closely with the out,
All the time.
Oh, absolutely.
okay. Because I know that was a
I mean,
concern.
you mind if I speak towards that?
Yeah,
So
please.
I found out we were applying for $150,000 and I was gonna take away the funding for the 2 case coordinators. I thought, no way, I need those 2 to keep doing what we're doing. So I don't, it's $100,000 less, but still it's important for those positions with Pete and Jeremy to continue as well. So it's a win-win, I think.
It's good for the community and the
Yes.
city, you know, maybe
Yep.
we'll have to come up with the extra money some way, but Pete and Jeremy go to home visits quite a bit with Toloff, and they're in our facilities all the time, weekly. I mean, they're great. You guys done a good job in investing in those positions.
Other questions for St. John's?
Well, it's a quick one, and it could be Will, it could be Shane. What's the difference in the role of what the city caseworkers do versus the folks
Sure.
from St. John's?
Yeah, absolutely. So the origin of our homeless outreach case coordinators came out of a need for a deeper level of engagement. So at the time, we had a few core people doing street outreach, and because of the volume, and which still exists to some extent today, our outreach staff, the outreach staff that were doing this work in the community they were able to make that initial introduction, understand what their challenges are, but as far as, taking them to the doctor's appointment and sitting them with for 4 hours or helping them apply for Social Security disability, that capacity just didn't exist. And so Pete and Jeremy's positions were designed to be more intensive and focused on the most chronic and vulnerable homeless of our community that have the most barriers to housing, and they even have a limited caseload as well, just to ensure they have the time to allocate to those individuals, which I think also speaks to their success, in that, in housing some of these folks that have been unhoused for 5+ years in some cases. And so that's really the difference, is at the deeper level, almost, I hate to label it as hand-holding, but really it is. I mean, some individuals need that. We have an awesome network of service providers in this community between St. John's and New Community Shelter, and House of Hope and Golden House and others. But there is this, growing population that are just very challenging to serve, and we just can't wash our hands of it or shrug our shoulders and say what we do. So that's what Pete and Jeremy are responsible for doing.
And those were 2 positions that came out of a grant that came through Peter.
Correct, that's the
Couple of
same
years
funding
ago, so-
source. Yep,
And so we'll be using part of this money then to fund those 2.
to continue
also.
funding those.
And, which is important too. Okay.
Which really feed into the work, and that's why, some of the people that Pete and Jeremy are working with have been exited from St. John's for valid reasons, whether that's behavior, and so they're working with these individuals to even get to a point where they're, eligible for shelter again, and then working with St. John's. I know that, I can't tell you how many hours, I'm sure Toloff could, as far as how much time Pete and Jeremy spend over at the Micah Center.
We spend, honestly, between the 3 of us, we spend 4 to 5, 6 hours together a day.
Yeah.
I talk to Jeremy if we're not together, an hour on the phone every day, just planning our day and following up on what needs to happen, so. It's a fluid situation. I would
It
say
is, yeah.
Jeremy and Pete's role are intensive case management, like ICU kind of, if you want to look at the medical field, so.
Yeah.
And they don't have many people under caseload because they can't, because they need to take care of these people, like Bill said, 3-4 hours a day, so.
Other questions for St. John's? If not, thank you. Thanks, Jesse. If not, I entertain a motion back to regular business.
Motion to support.
Second. All the interest in that, all those.
Melanie.
Melanie, I'm sorry. All those, yeah, thank you. All those in favor, you can say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Great, great, thank you. So we're back to regular order of business. And I'll entertain a motion.
So I take it the motion that it's about awarding 50,000, not 150,000.
Correct.
I make the motion then to award $50,000 of home art funds to St. John's Ministries to support the last mentioned program.
And I'll second that.
Okay, motion by.
Chair?
Yes, please.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask you a quick question for staff. Does this decision lie exclusively with RDA, or does this go on to council?
This is the RDA.
Okay, and that's why I wanted to make sure, just so that I speak up now. And forgive me, Will, I know you mentioned what the sunset window was on this particular grant, but I didn't quite hear it. When do all these funds need to be spent?
2030.
Okay, and so I appreciate sometimes there's this delicate line, right, of where you want to fund programs into the future. And you can obviously, on the other end, throw too much money at a problem as well, where you become inefficient. The one thing that is, obviously our need is great right now, and I want to maybe make sure that we're not holding money back because we want to maybe continue to fund a position in years 2 or 3, if that is money that can be deployed now, that can have an impact right now. It's one of those things where I'd almost rather defer the decision of how you fund those roles in the future for, a future date where you can bring in other partners or grant funding or even levy funding. I'm just kind of curious if you could maybe comment on that, like where the demand is right now for immediate need relative to the resources available, and if there is an efficient way that these funds could be deployed faster to see an impact sooner.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that question, Alder. Right now, the urgent need is the growing population of our unhoused neighbors that, for various reasons, are not eligible for shelter at our current shelters within the community. And that's St. John's, that's Wellspring, that's New Community, and others. And that population is growing, as is the age of that population. And the work right now that our case coordinators are doing for the city are not only trying to navigate these complex situations that are preventing these individuals from entering into shelter, they are also defraying police response as well in that way. And so, saving the community on emergency response costs as well. So I don't want to go on too long, but the urgent need right now are the folks that are currently on the street and unhoused. And I'm not saying that, because I feel like oftentimes with homelessness, it's such a multi-layered issue that it's so easy to say, well, what's more important? Is it creating affordable housing, or is it addressing street homelessness? There's so much that is intertwined into that issue that it becomes very challenging. And we also become paralyzed at times to say, well, what's the greatest need? Where's the highest and greatest use of these funds? From what I'm hearing, not just from our homeless outreach case coordinators, but also the community and service provider community, whether that's St. John's Ministries or that's New Community Shelter, or it's our police department or Salvation Army, is just the impact that our case coordinators are having right now in the community. They're addressing a population that for years past have not been addressed. And so I would say that if we were to lose funding for those positions or to cut that funding short, then there's this whole population that is going unserved in the way that they need to be served.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, Will, and I want to be clear that I'm not necessarily suggesting that, right? But if funds, in theory, were deployed sooner, in an efficient way that could eliminate the problem that we need to serve 3 years from now, I think it would be better to solve it today than 3 years from now. Generally speaking, I don't have an issue with doing a 1-year agreement with St. John's instead of a 3-year, because just for the same argument, right? I don't feel compelled to have to fund a program 2 and 3 years from now. I would just want to encourage us to not feel like we have to hold back money to fund a program that we're managing and fixing vehicles that we have 2 or 3 years from now, if there is a way to deploy it now that can have a more immediate impact to improve people's lives and almost save like funding decisions for needs around the same problem for a later date, I guess, in years 2 or 3 when those things are more imminent. So just something to consider. I'm not necessarily looking for you to change the motion or make a specific action so much as it is to say, hey, if we still have funding available and there's a use for it that can be deployed today to make a difference today, I hope we consider that.
Thank you.
Alder Johnson, if I could just.
Yeah, please.
If I could just jump in real quick.
Yeah, please.
Just wanted to make the point that also, kind of view this as an employer, obviously, right? Pete and Jeremy are doing tremendous work, as Will and Tullough have said. And so, from my point of view, we want to give them a little bit more certainty too, as far as how long these positions are going to be in place. And obviously, we are constantly, as a big organization, hiring people and dealing with turnover. But with these positions in particular, they've built up a lot of rapport and developed really solid relationships with other service providers and also with the population they're serving. And so just really want to give, Pete and Jeremy some certainty on how long they can expect these positions to be funded, at least with the current funding source. So, that's really why I feel very comfortable with how the funding has been sorted out here.
Okay, any other comments in regard to the motion and a second? If not, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Thanks for everybody's comments, suggestions.
Thank you.
Will, excellent comments, like always.
Thank you.
Number 2, consideration of possible action. Oh, I'm sorry.
One second.
Yeah, please.
I won't change anything.
No, that's okay. I'm sorry.
I don't know Pete and Jeremy for anything, nor the work that they do. Would it be possible for them to come to one of our meetings, if that's not too disruptive to their day? Just say hi, give a little word it is on what they do, and for us to say thank you. Because their jobs don't sound very easy.
No.
They would love that.
They would, yeah, absolutely.
Just, wouldn't want to tie up a ton of their time, but just, I'm hearing all these things, and it sounds like a tough job.
Yep. Like the March RDA?
Super nice. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, and
Good call.
the ties with, I was happy to hear the ties with St. John's Ministry, that they
Agreed.
depend on them. And
That response was
yes.
awesome.
Yeah.
If you
Great
look at
comments,
your master
everybody. I'm sorry,
newsletter,
Karen.
there's a large article in there from them.
Is there?
Matt reads that cover to cover.
Put in the plug, Debbie.
That's
I'm sure you drank the wine. Excellent comments for everybody. Thank you very much. Number 2, consideration of possible action on a developer agreement with Redevelopment Homes Incorporated for lots 8 through 11, Vernon Taylor Drive in PG Way?
Pajway.
Well, I pronounce it?
Paj?
Pajway. Okay, thank you. Thanks, Will.
Yep.
And Will, you're back on.
Yeah, back on, right. Call back in July of 25, staff issued a request for proposals for the single-family and townhome developments, which is, if you don't mind, I'm just gonna stand and go around here a little bit. So for the single-family development, which is up here, and this is Vernon Taylor, this is Pajway here, and then the townhome developments, which is on the Grand Boulevard here, and then up here as well. So we sent out that RFP back in July of 25 and received 3 responses. One for Redew Homes, one for NeighborWorks Green Bay, and one from Habitat for Humanity. And we've been working with all 3 developers since to get us to the point where we can put out a development agreement for your review. And happy to say that Redo Homes submitted, their proposal for single-family developments, which we're looking at putting Redo here, these two larger corner lots, these two single-family lots here, and then also the townhome development along the Grand Boulevard. And then there's also interest from Redo in doing a single-family development here. If you recall, this area here in the development was technically part of Bellevue, which we are in the process, in finishing up the process of transferring that land into the city of Green Bay, which is why you don't see those lots part of the development agreement. So what you have in front of you is a development agreement for single-family homes on lots 8 through 11. If you can go to the next slide. Redo is proposing a mix of 1.5 and 2-story homes, 3-bedroom, 2 full baths, 2-stall garages. And as you can see here, they're really well designed and thoughtful. I know they're not in color and true elevation, so sometimes it's hard for people like me at least to visualize what they look like. But if you reflect back into their proposal, really thought out and very nice finishes. They are looking at selling those at market rate, and at this point are not looking to request any assistance from the city. So the development agreement that you see in front of you is pretty straightforward for infill development. I do want to draw your attention to just a couple items in that development agreement. There is on the Grand Boulevard where the townhomes are, there is a large amount of dirt, a huge amount of dirt right now. And right now the city's contract with the company that is working down there doesn't include the removal of that dirt. And so Redo has been so kind as to partner with the city and help the city remove that fill, which they have use for in some of their other development sites. So there's a provision in the development agreement to include that, where they will charge $125 per truckload to the city for removal, and then bill us once the dirt is completely removed.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Didn't we pay like $250,000 to have a bunch of dirt moved there at JBS? We dug a hole and then they came in for the homes, the ones that are right next to each other? Am I?
Yeah, there was an issue with like kind of over excavation in an area of the site, but as the architects or others could probably tell you, not all fill is made equal, right? And so it can get pretty complicated on what can be used where and sorts of materials that come into play. But yes, that was an issue.
Okay.
What does the dirt have to do with this recommendation?
I just want, it's from the development. It has nothing to do with the recommendation itself. It's just part of the language in the development agreement, just adding that, hey, in addition to building these great homes, they're also agreeing to work with the city in removing the excess fill there at an agreed upon rate of $125 per truckload. And then one other note I just wanted to just draw your attention to is, no, it's just in the development agreement. So there's just one discrepancy between the lot prices on the staff report and the lot prices in the development agreement. The lot prices in the staff report are not wrong. They're just for the smaller townhome development lots. So the actual prices are reflected in the development agreement for lots 8 through 11.
Questions for
Steve.
Will?
Yeah.
That was
I've got some 3 lots, right, 8, 9, 10, 11.
It's actually 4 lots.
4 lots.
Yep, counts as
So
0,
that's-
fine.
yep.
These here.
Yep. Of the other lots we've approved to date, how many of them were market rate versus?
Oh, that's a great question. So right now, 8 through 11 are going to be market rate. We're planning on these 3 also to be market rate from Redo, and the townhomes as well along the Grand Boulevard that will be coming forward at a later meeting right now
Yep.
are also going to be market rate. What's going to be affordable in this development is the multifamily is going to be workforce housing, gearing rent prices for households making it between 80 and 120, so that missing middle.
Yep.
NeighborWorks right now, we're working on finalizing a development agreement with them for the development of these townhomes, which are going to be 6 townhomes, 4 of which are going to be made to affordable or income eligible households.
Okay.
And then right now, we are working on putting together a development agreement with Habitat for Humanity for these 7 homes up here, which are going to be made available to Habitat families. But just as an update, because it's just related, a lot of right now that's dictating the time or the pace for the development agreements is the land division. So we're still working with the land division for these lots down here and these lots up here before we can actually legally sell them.
Thanks.
Well, I remember asking you this last time. You're obviously dealing with a lot of different players. Does that concern you? I mean, in this area?
A lot of different players, developers.
Yeah, 3 different developers.
It's actually been pretty wonderful. So Radu is here in the room, right, and Allison, we're welcome to speak.
Right.
Everybody's willing to work together. We've
Good.
shared all of the designs with all of the developers between NeighborWorks and Habitat, just so that we can make sure that the facades and the exteriors blend well
Good.
together. There's not like anything sticking out like a sore thumb.
Good.
So,
Well, you got the right coordinator.
oh.
You work well with people. Questions or comments for Will? Excuse me.
One quick one. The
Yeah.
agreement looks very simple and straightforward.
It is, yeah.
Do we know when construction would start on those 4 lots?
So Review is itching to go. Like they can, they yesterday, and they actually like to start moving the dirt like tomorrow before it thaws and gets really messy and muddy out there.
Yep.
But what's
That passed, by the way.
yeah. As soon as we get like the plat approved, the final plat approved for those lots, we can actually make the transfer of the land and they can get started. So we're looking at this spring really, or sooner.
And how was the 125 per truckload? How did we come to that?
Yes, I worked with our Parks Department, Dan Detroit, our director down there, who's been project managing like the excavation and the public side, the public infrastructure. So working with Dan and DPW to come up with a price, and that was something that they felt was reasonable.
So he knows something about the cost
Yes.
of moving a truckload.
Yeah, right.
Yep.
Okay. Good.
This is just awesome that we are getting some single family that are going to be built along there, because we've been watching this development now
It's a
for
beautiful
4 or 5
project.
years that we've been working on this.
No,
It's awesome,
That's exciting.
very good.
Beautiful piece of property. Any other questions for Will? If not, I don't think it's necessary to open up the meeting, but if you want to, we will. If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Okay,
Second.
second by Matt. Questions or comments in regard to the motion? Excuse me. If not, I'll do the thing by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Give me a little more coffee.
Let me get that one.
Yeah, oh, yeah, I appreciate that. Appreciate it. Thank you. Excuse me. Consideration with, number 3, consideration of possible action to approve a 1-year development agreement for the construction of 6 townhouses on the sites located at 1118 North Van Buren Street, 1124 North Van Buren Street, and 910 Weaver Street. And that is
That's
Rhonda.
gonna be me.
Rhonda, please.
So this site here is, these are the 3 townhomes that he's proposed to us. This site is zoned R3, so it's very density residential. These are going to be situated basically on a corner, 2 Van Buren sites, and then the Reber site. So the 2 Van Buren sites will each have 3 townhomes on each one, and then 910 Reber will become the backside where the garages and the driveway access will come in. So he is proposing these 6 townhomes. Each unit would have 3 bedrooms, 2.5 bath, approximately 1440 square feet. And he is offering to purchase these at $35,000, which is the asking price for these 3. These will be owner occupied and market rate units.
Okay.
So as staff, we are just requesting approval of the one-year development agreement.
Questions? If not, I will entertain one for Google.
So moved.
Steve,
Second.
second by Debbie. Questions or comments regarding the motion? If not, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Thank you. Thanks, Rhonda. Great job with all
Late
this.
comment on Linda.
Number 4, consideration of possible action on the award of the Fair Housing Services 3-year contract to Metropolitan Milwaukee Fair Housing Council for Community Development Block Grant Funding. And that's Will again.
Right, yeah, thank you, Gary. So as an entitlement community where we receive redevelopment block grant funds from HUD, we're required to offer and provide fair housing services. The past several years, we have been working with Metropolitan Milwaukee Fair Housing. As a formality, we do need to issue an RFP out for qualified nonprofits to provide these services. So we've approached that period. We've went past our 3-year contract and had to send out another RFP. And the Metropolitan Milwaukee Fair Housing Council was the only nonprofit to respond to this RFP. Since we've worked with them for a number of years, we can vouch for their qualifications and are satisfied with the services that they've been providing, we would like to recommend the award of that contract to Metropolitan Milwaukee Fair Housing Council for the next 3 years for fair housing services. And I do have included in your package just their proposal, which kind of outlines the types of services that they provide. And then also have with me just some basic information on what they've seen this past year and what they've done as well. But just happy to answer any questions.
Do we know how many people they counsel from our area?
Yeah, 6. Right now, our complaint, as far as complaints go, that people called in concerning about fair housing or discrimination, they've worked with 6. All of those cases have been closed. I just want to add to Megan Wonky, I believe I saw, is on the call from Metropolitan Milwaukee Fair Housing and is also able to answer any of these questions as well you might have for them.
Questions, comments?
You guys are happy with working with?
That's the key right
We
there.
are, and one item we did add to their contract or their scope of work this past year was maybe it was 2 years ago, was the testing and investigation. So kind of, if you recall, like the secret shoppers,
Oh, sure. Yeah.
It's kind of the same deal. Just we feel that it's important to make sure that the landlords that are out there, which the majority of them are operating above the bar, great to work with, don't have any issues, but just want to make sure that folks out there looking to rent can find safe, clean places to live and are being considered fairly.
Okay. Move to approve?
Motion by Alder Hinkles,
I'll second.
second by, hey, I remember you all of a sudden, your kid. Melanie, yes. I haven't seen you in a while. I mean, I see you on TV, but I never had seen you. Melanie. Yeah, right.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's a problem, I
Hey,
don't
what's
have a
really
name
sad-
tag.
It's really sad, we're going to talk about it later, but this is the last meeting, which is really sad. Okay, motion by Alder Hinkles and Melanie. All those in favor of the motion, please sing by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion carried, thank you. Number 5 is Will again. Will, you've been a busy young man. Consideration of possible action to award community development block grant funds for public service activities.
Right, thank you, Gary. So this is the 3rd year now that the RDA has allowed the city here to set money aside for our block grant allocation to award to nonprofits within the community. What we have done now is create each year certain categories or focus areas that we would like to prioritize, just because if you look at the federal regs, public service, it's a huge list of eligible activities, and sometimes when you call for, open call for applications, it's like comparing apples to oranges. So this year, we have a total of $151,633. of public service dollars to award. We wanted to focus those on public service activities around transportation, neighborhood revitalization and beautification, and then also recreational activities and service as well, and then energy efficiency or energy improvements for eligible households. With that, we received 10 applications requesting a total of $286,525.50. So, unfortunately, we were not able to award all the applications. So what we did was we had a small review team go through and review all of 10 applications. Unfortunately, 5 just were not eligible for funding for reasons such as, one of the organizations, they operated outside of the city of Green Bay. HUD is pretty strict when it comes to ensuring that the dollars that they award the city of Green Bay are benefiting directly residents of the city of Green Bay. So a number of these proposals that were submitted had a broader impact area, which makes it really difficult and challenging to ensure that those dollars are being tracked and spent on households within the city of Green Bay. So with that, we are bringing forward, I know in your staff report it says 5 organizations, but there is one recommendation that we would like to withhold right now from award, just given recent events and concerns around how that organization is handling their resources. So with NewCap, we would like to withhold that from this round. Obviously, if things are in the clear and kind of look to be on the up and up, definitely welcome them to apply again in the future. But just with this is always a really challenging decision to make. Ideally, we never want to bring a recommendation not to award forward, but just it's also, I think, it's important for us to pay attention to current events and what's going on. So with that, we have 4 organizations we would like to recommend approval. That would be the Freedom House at $7,025, and that's going to go towards improving or bolstering their transportation program to help their families get to important job interviews and grocery store and school and job interviews. And then the Boys and Girls Club recommending awarding $20,200. Right now, there's a great need for access and accessibility to their evening programs. And right now, transportation is a barrier for a number of their youth with just the operating hours of Metro Transit, the city bus. And we understand, and actually I talked with the Boys and Girls Club after we reviewed and scored their awards just to gain some clarification regarding transit on demand, call on demand, kind of like the Uber. And one of the barriers that was expressed was just simply like trust. A lot of these youth are a little younger and are a little apprehensive about just getting alone in the car with someone. Even though it's a city employee, there's just some fear around that, which is why they feel that isn't utilized as much. So what this funding will go towards is helping staff and actually add staff to provide transportation for after program hours, which is around like 9 o'clock at night. And then hands as well, we are recommending award of $23,862.50 for their program, which is increasing access to recreational activities for the Hmong community, specifically the Hmong community that are on the spectrum or are dealing with developmental challenges. And then We All Rise. I would like to note one change there. I know in your staff report it indicates that we're recommending award of $68,425. Their original proposal was for $70,000, and the reason why we came forward recommending it to $68,000 was there was a discrepancy in how they calculated their de minimis charge, so how much they can actually legally charge for admin costs and other services. So since the staff report was published and the meeting, I was able to talk with We All Rise to clarify that, which they did, and brought back the recommendation back up to $70,000. So we're actually going to recommend an award of $70,000 for We All Rise.
Okay.
Which says in there, yeah. I just, I like to call out, just discrepancies if there's
Yeah.
differences on the staff report or what's the recommendation.
Is there any oversight on all these funds?
Sorry, I didn't mean to articulate such a.
Well, I mean,
Yes, there is oversight on these funds. So that's my wonderful colleague, Jason, and I, who are in charge of monitoring on these organizations. So we have to visit these organizations once a year to review their accounting and bookkeeping, and then also ensure that the costs are accurate and true. So these are all, didn't mention it earlier, these are all reimbursement grants. So this is not just a check we award
Okay.
for $70,000. We go through to take out any ineligible expenses. So some of these programs is requesting funds to cover gas cards or bus passes, or what's the word I'm looking for? It's just almost like sub-granting, dollars to families, and we can't do that. So we have to remove some of those expenses from their awards to them. So yes, these are federal dollars. So there's definitely a heavy layer of monitoring on how these are spent and tracked.
Renita, I see you had your hand up there. Comments, please.
Yeah, so I'm just going to recuse myself for the vote for We All Rise if there's a vote coming up since I work there. Just
Okay, thank you.
okay.
Thank you.
Sorry, just a quick question.
Yes, please.
The $30,546 not being awarded to NewCap, that's just going back in the pile?
It's going. And this is a very short. I mean, I'm sure some of you might have seen the news article that came out, very fresh, and just. I just want to say that we've always valued our partnership with NewCap. We've awarded them funds in the past, and they've followed through and delivered. So this is not a reflection on our trust in them. We just want to, ensure that things pan out the way that they're supposed to with the monitoring that they're under right now from the state before we issue.
Totally understood. I'm just, if you had $286,000 worth of ask, and we only have $151 to get out, and now you got extra 30 grand in the pile.
Yep.
Right?
So we're going to have to go back and review some of those applications to see if there's applications that we've already received on file that we could potentially award, or if we'll have to open up another application process for the remaining funds.
Thank you.
Not good. I just could say, Will, I don't know if my math is correct, but really what the total request is for $267,554. I did subtraction and additions. You know if that's correct?
No, it should be $151,633 is the amount that. Well, sorry. Let's.
And take out NewCap.
Let me take out NewCap here. Something like mathing on the fly.
Yeah.
I embrace it. Let's just go with it here. I'm not ashamed to use my calculator here.
Ask Melody.
Mr. Mayor, please.
Yeah, well, Will's still tabulating. But maybe a question for Cheryl as well, just sort of a more longer-term question about how we are able to use these dollars. Obviously, had a conversation with St. John's about home ERP, not having as many funds as we'd like, and so we've got to be smart about it. Theoretically, if the lasting change program were in line with our community plan or whatever, however you define that with CDBG, they could maybe come back in a future year.
Yeah, I think so, right?
Yep.
It's ineligible.
Correct. Yeah, it's an eligible expense.
I'm sure it's part
Or
of the
eligible activity.
consolidated plan.
Right, okay. Yeah, so we get, like what was saying, roughly 150,000 every year, as long as the feds keep, consistent with that, we'll have that opportunity to dole these funds out again next year, so.
If my big thumbs didn't do me wrong here, should be at $121,087.50.
Okay, okay. We're allocated $151,633, right?
Yep, that's what we have available.
Yes.
Right.
And this request, before we pulled the new cap out, was $286,525.
No, actually that's incorrect. So we received 10 applications, and if we looked at all 10 applications that we received, that totaled $286,525.
Okay.
So that's just what we received in asks.
No, I understand. Good, thank you, thank you for your clarification.
No problem.
I was wondering why some, like, not eligible for funding.
Yeah.
When it really looked like it was eligible for.
Yeah,
It to me.
right, and we are really married to the federal regs as far as what are allowable expenses and what
Right.
aren't. And so that was the primary reason, and location as well. Some of these programs were serving more than just the population of Green Bay. So for example, well, NeighborWorks, though that in itself is an eligible expense,
Right.
it was beyond of what the scope of the call was, and it didn't directly, it didn't, we didn't, in the application that we read, we didn't see the direct impact benefit number-wise, financial-wise to the renters. To us, it was reflected more about maintenance
Sure.
item
Mm-hmm.
than something that is gonna,
Something's always looking slow.
right. So that was kind of the tough call that we had to make. So though in nature, and again, all of these grants that we received, the nature of all these grants are great. They're doing good work. It's just we have to get what they're doing somehow to find a way to shoehorn it into the federal regulations and what's allowed. And we do that the best we can, but if it gets to be too far into the gray area, and we always have to ask ourselves, okay, if HUD came in and monitored our programs,
Absolutely.
are they going to think this is okay, and are they going to ask for their money back? Because that's how it's going to work, is they're going to
Yes.
want their money back. And so we just want to make sure we're not putting the city in that position.
I remember when I was working at NeighborWorks and they're like, HUD's coming to audit our files today.
Any other questions for Will? Thanks for the clarification.
Oh, yeah, no problem.
No.
I can
One other question,
Yeah,
when we
please.
get a report
Oh, good.
to, after you guys go in, you review, what has been the impact of these dollars with these organizations?
Oh, yeah, no. So we get reports yearly. We ask for them quarterly just because it's easier to keep up with the paperwork, just on households they have served and narratives. So if you would like, it would just take us a little bit of time to get a report put together, but if you'd like to learn what past programs have done and the impact that they had, that's certainly something that we can give. We just need a little time to.
Well, as we're giving money out to nonprofits, the one thing we want to make sure is that we're holding them accountable for the work that they say they're going to do.
Oh, yeah.
And that
Yep.
we want to know what the impact is.
Absolutely.
Especially as we're, giving more of these funds out.
Absolutely.
So
yeah.
that's yes, my main concern.
No, absolutely, yeah, they're required to report to us, and if they don't have those deliverables, and we're constantly checking, and in fact, HUD, they have, I don't want to say it's easy to use because it's not very intuitive, but through their reporting database, we have to enter in all of the individuals or households that these organizations are serving, and we also collect, household income demographics, and we have to enter that in as well, for everyone that is being served. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And
You
if,
could have one FTE just to do the report.
right, and so the rule is with these dollars, these dollars have to benefit at least 51% individuals or households that are low to moderate income. And if that percentage is less, like at 50, that's a red flag. Like we can't. So we have to ensure, and they have to ensure that they're serving the population that these dollars are intended to. Otherwise, we have to pull back funding.
And most of these are.
Yeah. I would say when it comes to like grants out there, despite what some people might see, in the news or in the media, like federal grants are some of the most heavily regulated, and because of that, challenging to utilize sometimes. And I say that in the most, I guess, respectful way that I can. It's just it's a bear sometimes, but it's very little room for like mismanagement unless it was intentional. But just with the oversight that we provide as staff in monitoring these organizations, the information that we require, it's pretty hard.
Okay, any other questions for Will? I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to advance, approve.
Motion by Alderman Hinkes,
Second.
second by Steve. Questions or comments with regard to the motion? Not all in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And you're excused. Thank you.
And this doesn't go to council, right?
Correct.
It-
Okay, informational, before we get into ours, Jeff called me, he can't be here, but Brooke, are you there? Or Leah?
Leah was.
I'm here. Leah is here.
Yes, Leah, please give us an update real quick, or whatever. Just quick.
Still super successful winter market happening. It's in the second floor of the BMO Harris building, and everyone should attend. It's a great event.
Excellent, keep up the great work.
Thank you.
Informational, I looked at the financial register, had a couple questions, they were answered, but anybody else have questions in regard to the financial report or check register? If not, director's report, private updates, please.
Right, so in your packet, you have our list of projects that are happening. Matt and I have been talking merged developers. We'd like to bring them back. They actually have requested a special meeting of the RDA on February 24th, if possible. They would like to attend, give us an update on the project, and we could look at updating that development agreement. Of course, this has been stalled for a while, and they realize that we are really interested in them moving forward. So if it's possible, we can send emails out on that special meeting as well.
You hope that most folks can make that?
Yeah, I do.
Okay,
Thinking the same time.
Yeah, we could do the same time.
yeah, please. Let's keep it simple.
Tuesday.
They need Tuesday the 24th.
Any
We'll
questions?
confirm by email.
Yeah,
And
please.
then, and then also, at the next, we received the numbers back from our friends at 360 for the 200 North Monroe project. Our assessors have been in, I think, some training, so they haven't been able to work with us on our numbers. So we're working on getting those numbers together, seeing how this project is coming out financially, and they're ready to come to us in March, hopefully, with the development agreement. Once we lay out and see what TIP would be able to do for that project, so.
And where's Merge again?
Merge is
When
in the
that?
shipyard.
Shipyard. Oh, yeah.
And then our housing study will be coming to you in March. We're reviewing that. We have it, I believe, the completed version in-house, and now we want to go through that and put our stats together as well. And so they'll be here to present in March.
Okay, very good. Before I entertain a motion to close the meeting, I want to recognize Melanie. Oh my gosh. She's been with us for a long time. And I just we all super appreciate your comments from a business perspective. You have such a good perspective on things. And so we're going to miss you a lot. And how many years, Dave?
It's been 15 years, so time was coming up in March, and so I thought it was an opportunity for some fresh blood to join the RDA. It's been a great experience all these years, yeah. 15
You've been
years,
enjoying
time flies.
You've been enjoying it. Okay, well, Thank you. Our next meeting is March 10th. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Matt, yeah.
Second.
Absolutely.
Just pick one.
On the way out. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you.
Yes, yes.
Bye, folks.
Bye.
Recording stopped.